Ogrepon upon Ogrepon upon Ogrepon upon Ogrepon. Today's video, we're going to be going over Twilight Masquerade, and you won't believe what's going on in the Pokemon TCG's newest set. Let's check out the numbers, starting off with this Twilight Masquerade booster box sitting at $101. Obviously had a huge price decrease from its pre-release sales and just being out over a week now, I suppose, week and a half maybe. Once again, over $100. Moving on to the best Pokemon in the set, all the Ogrepons. That was in the ETB trainer booklet that you get, and I love saying Ogrepon upon Ogrepon upon Ogrepon upon Ogrepon. Say that 5 times fast. But we got all of the special illustration rare Ogrepons and the gold and the Terra full art one. And every single one of the special illustration rares have really come down in price. The most expensive one being the Teal Mask Ogrepon, sitting at $43 for a copy of the card, with all the others at $27 for the Wellspring, $19 for the Cornerstone, and $19 for the Hearthflame. And what's interesting is the gold and the regular full art have gone up in price now to $18 and $15 respectively. These guys have seen a price increase from their release date of about like $6 to $8, I think, each. And it's because it's a pretty competitive card. Players want them in their decks. They want to be easily searched through. If you're searching through your deck, you want to find the gold Ogrepon or the silver Ogrepon Terra full art. So they've gone up in price actually, which is interesting. And there's a bunch of competitive tournaments coming around, like the North American Championship coming up soon, and Worlds coming up later in August. So it makes sense that those cards have gone up a little bit in price. But all of these special illustration rares, I believe, have dipped a little bit. But moving on to another special illustration rare in the set, the Chase. It is the Greninja SIR or SAR, sitting at $145 for a copy of this card. And this is very interesting because pre-release it was sitting at like $155-ish, tanked down to about $110, and is now at $145. This card is very hard to pull. I believe that has something to do with it being that high up. People weren't really excited for Twilight Masquerade, so I believe that there's less people opening this product, so there's a little bit less Greninjas circulating than there usually is, say with like the Charizard EXs in recent memory. So this guy went all the way down to about 110 and is now at 145. Could be because of the scarcity, could be because of the demand. It's a beautiful card, but I'm sure as more and more booster packs are being opened, and this is a very hard set to hit on. I believe it's harder than Temporal Forces, which really nerfed the pull rates. This guy could come down a little bit in price, but right now sitting at $145 for a card. Moving on to another special illustration rare. This is the Carmine from Twilight Masquerade, and once again sitting at $116, but it did the same thing that the Greninja did. $115 for pre-release and before the set release, dipped all the way down to a $75 card and is now up to $115. And the recent solds here are 128, 178, and 128. That sounds a little bit fishy, especially with the 178. I don't know if that's a legitimate sale. I would have to assume that it's just pumping, which is going to increase the price. It might be up even since I looked at this video, or done this PowerPoint, I should say, sorry. But sitting at $115, I'm sure it has to do with a little bit of a hard pull rate. People probably want this, but it's a little bit suspicious of a card. The Greninja makes a little bit more sense than this guy does. But it's gone up in price. Pretty interesting when the norm for Pokemon sets is to come crashing down in price. Moving on to Lana's Aid. Absolutely love this card. Shout out Sun and Moon. Great game. This is sitting at $33 a card, and this seems to have sort of a natural trajectory from when a new set comes out. Usually it's like a race to the bottom with TCG sellers, so it just makes the price point go down a little bit. Was set $70 for pre-release and is now pretty much half that price, now at $33 for a copy of the card. And you see it's very, very different than the Greninja or the Carmine. And it's a beautiful card, and you see that recent solds are 27, 33, 33. So it could be going down even more in price, but interesting to see in comparison to Greninja and Carmine. Moving on to another special illustration rare, Perrin. And if you know that if you set up a Growlithe next to this card, they're like in the same picture. And I think that has a lot to do with its price point of $85. It went all the way down to around $60 a card and is now back up to $85, with recent solds being around that $80 to $85 price point. And it dipped once again to around $60, but it's even higher than it was for the pre-release price, which is kind of insane. But I think it has to do with the desirability of that Growlithe art rare. Beautiful card, and I think the art style, I should say, is sort of driving that price up. But could be other things too. Moving on to another, and I believe our last special illustration rare, other than the Ogrepons, the Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, and this guy went from $96 at pre-release and is tanked down to a $58 card and is still going down in price. This is my chase from Crimson Haze. Haven't been able to pull it. Lovely card, absolutely lovely. And sitting at $58, I believe it's still going to be going down. Doesn't have as much desirability as like the Greninja Pokemon of the Year every single year, or some of those full art and special illustration rare trainers. So we're seeing a big price dip as normal with new set releases. Moving on to some of the art rares, we have the Tatsugiri illustration rare. Uh, this guy was at around $10 a card, went all the way up to $18, and is now hovering at an $11 card, with recent solds at 11, 9, 13. So anywhere in that ballpark for a Tatsugiri illustration rare. Absolutely lovely card, like incredible art, but it's sort of coming down a little bit. It shot up because I think it's a pretty desirable card for artwork and also for competitive as well. I know Tatsugiri has some competitive implications in the TCG, but artwork wise, amazing. Moving on to another illustration rare, and one of the like the most interesting points of this case study of Twilight Masquerade, the EV. And it's gone absolutely crazy. $25 a card. And once again, when a new set comes out, usually they're supposed to dip in price. This EV is now sitting at $48 a card, or $47 a card, excuse me, with recent solds for 45, 45, and one for 54. So there could be a little bit of market manipulation here, but the price seems to be going up a little bit more as time goes on. And once again, great card. There's a bunch of EVs there. I think there's one for each evolution. I might be wrong about that, but that'd be cool if there was. This guy sort of has all the earmarks, a little bit of the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, where you see here was sitting at $60 a card, went all the way up to $80, dropped down to $50, and then since then has been growing and then just shot up to $100 a card. The past few months, it just had a vertical growth. And I don't want to claim this for the Eevee. I really don't. I hope it doesn't, because it's a great card. And I'd like to pick it up one day, not for $100, to put in the binder. But this guy had the market manipulation, assuming that this guy had the market manipulation, had absolutely crazy price growth. And Eevee is another Gen 1 popular Pokemon. Could be different. I wish it to be different, but never know. Kind of getting scared though, because it reminds me of this. Moving on to just some screen grabs of some of the illustration rares. Every single other illustration rare is going for like $2 to $3 a card. There are some beautiful arts in this set. The Fion, the Sunflora, the Chimecho. I hate Enamorous, but it's kind of a cool art. The Timber, I love the Timber. These guys are sitting at slightly above a $2 card. I actually pulled the Chimecho out of an ETB. It was like one of the only hits that we got, unfortunately, but lovely, like one of my favorite arts. So surreal. I love it. And they're pretty cheap. All the other illustration rares are just really cheap. Moving on to just some full arts and some trainers. the prices here, these are great pickups. I believe they've had the natural decline in price that a new set normally, allows for. More of them get put on the market, cheaper they get. And all these guys are sitting at below a $5 card with some full art trainers like Alana's Aid and Perrin, and the art rares of Diplin, Applin, and Frostlass. Frostlass is beautiful, beautiful artwork there. But that's going to do it. I hope you find some value in this. I hope you have an idea of what's going on with Twilight Masquerade. Some interesting things, some things that we aren't used to seeing when a Pokemon set comes out, and some good opportunities with those last two screen grabs of cards that are pretty cheap if you just want for your binder, your collection, whatever. That'll do it.